And they're off. We'll get them synced up in a moment. Right off the bat, things actually get pretty technical with this wall jump sequence right here. Mandatoby missing it just a little bit, so Eagle's off to a slight lead. And then after that very intense set of inputs, we're back to some more text. Eagle not quite getting the snipes on that last enemy. But still ahead by half a second, maybe. This would be a hell of a race if things stayed this close the whole time. We'll keep our fingers crossed. For now, we need to learn about the X. They're a parasite. They're bad. And Metroids prey on them. That's kind of all you need to know. Metroid, the baby Metroid's DNA is infused into your suit, and it sort of saves your life again. And that's why you can absorb X now here in Metroid Fusion. Eagle picking up another half second or so before both racers hit another set of text boxes. Actually a really good speed run to both play and watch, but the beginning's a little text heavy. We had synchronized screen transitions, but Eagle actually one room ahead. Mandatoby overrunning the missile download pod just a little bit. Eagle putting his newfound missiles to use. I like the parts of the game where you get into these sort of air ducts and vents and things that you're kind of not supposed to be. Back to the main Dutch. Idor's giving him one. 2 for Eagle, 1 for Mandatoby. 2 for both. Oh, an extra 1 for Mandatoby. Not what he needs to get back and make up this small gap between the players. So this is the 100% category, so you're seeing these guys detour for all these little missile and E-tank upgrades. Makes this first boss go a little more smoothly. You just shoot him with missiles. We'll see if these guys are going to be going for some double hits. I guess not really a thing on this first guy. this first X core, since it goes down in just 2 hits. Trying to manipulate it to die close to the middle of the screen. Mandatoby having a bit of trouble there, both getting it into the middle and picking up the morph ball ability afterwards. So Eagle has now earned himself a good 10-second lead or so here. But he is looking pretty good coming out of the boss fight. Once more into the text room. I think we're about to learn about our antagonist for most of the game. But first, we're going to detour for some power-ups. Eagle reaching the elevator at 627 or so, and here we see our evil. But oh no, with scary eyes. She's got all those power-ups and a missile that just blows open doors. You ready for it again? Right side of your screen. Oh no, it's horrible. I had to look away, honestly. Almost synchronized elevators here. As Eagle's the first one to Sector 1. More text. So the goal for this next section of the game is to clear off the gunk off of 5 different atmosphere stabilizers. And we're all out of scrubbing bubbles, so we're just going to shoot missiles at the gunk. It can be a little tricky to land some of the shots on it because it does oscillate up and down, side to side, just a little bit. This one not so much, but some of the others. Eagle not quite. Still hits on those pirates on the way down, gets hit by both. Because this is 100%, the players are all quite healthy, so they don't have to worry too much about things like that. Eagle taking the moment to make sure his shots land true, and they do. Mandatoby can do the same. 1, 2, 3. Just barely landing that third one. Thought he was going to have to go up and shoot again, so he actually started climbing upwards. But it did land. Gonna have to wait here, Eagle, for his third shot. Mandatoby with the off-screen snipe. Very well-placed shots. Eagle killing a pirate there for a couple of missiles. I think he's in a bit of a missile crunch. He's down to 3, whereas Mandatoby's sitting at 14. There's a bit of randomness involved with enemy drops, especially because they come in the form of those X-parasites and they fly around, and they can be annoying to deal with. Like these eye doors, 2 lasers in a row for Eagle, but he's got the 3 missiles he needs to open the door. Gets good luck after the first 2, See what Mandatoby gets. There's 2. Ooh, 3 in a row. 4 in a row. Come on, Idor, not like this. Oh, he misses the missile. Okay, he does get it. You know, I think Eagle got some double shots there on the X core. Very nicely done. It's very tricky to do. You kind of, if you're familiar with Dopplers, oh, and Mandatoby with another set of doubles. Great boss kills from both. If you're familiar with the Doppler technique on the Phantoon fight in Super Metroid, it's kind of similar. Missiles have they take time to accelerate before they get going to full speed. So by moving while you fire them, you can kind of get the missiles to stack on top of each other a little bit, and it lets you get more than one missile in before the Core X turns invincible again. Gets its iframes. Saves a whole bunch of time because waiting for those iframes actually takes a fair bit, a couple of seconds. I'm gonna say 2 seconds, maybe 3. A couple of tinks from Mandatoby off of the final atmospheric stabilizer. Eagle's still with a sizable lead here, but I don't think he's really added to it through Sector 1 here. Mandatoby's been keeping pace. With Sector 1 taken care of, we're off to Sector 2. I don't think you actually visit all 6 in order. It might even have you backtrack before you visit them all. Not fond of the suit design and fusion. I guess I'm inclined to agree. I think part of it is the helmet doesn't mesh with the suit anymore. Is my biggest thing. But then when the helmet doesn't mesh, it looks kind of like one of those big goofy diver's helmets. And that's funny, I guess. So it gets points for that. I do think the fusion suit in Metroid Prime looks absolutely awful. And some of the suit power-up colors variations are really bad. This starting one here with the blue and the yellow, it's okay. But the yellow-purple one is, oh boy. We're on our way to get some bombs. Eagle exiting that refill room at 1340. Mandatoby exiting at 1350. So my 10-second guess at the gap between the players turned out to be almost spot on. And that makes me happy. Eagle is the first player to unlock the level 1 security hatches. This was one of the much maligned speedrunners who liked having a nice big open game that encouraged a certain amount of exploration and more importantly the speedrunners sequence breaks. These locked doors everywhere really hurt the potential for sequence breaks in this game. But I think it still found a fairly devoted core of speedrunners just due to the incredibly solid mechanics of the game. I think it's more fun just to run around, jump, and shoot things in this game than it is to in just about any other Metroid game. Eagle having something a little weird there on top of the pillar. I don't know if it's just me, but it looked like he was almost kind of moonwalking on it for a little bit. Both players moving fairly well through this sort of one-tile vent section of the game. It's hard to be very optimal in those sections. It can be a little fiddly, especially making sure Samus falls down on one tile gap. Both players looking good on ammo. I didn't think ammo would be much of a concern in the 100% category, but we saw Eagle actually having to farm just a tiny little bit for a couple extra missiles. But with the missile counts they have now, I don't think it's going to be much of a problem going forwards. Then again, we'll see. Maybe all these increased missiles just means you have more to dump on a boss, and then you end a boss fight with no missiles and are potentially in a crunch. In addition to potential missile RNG, they do have to worry about the RNG on this boss. I can't remember his name. I think it starts with an F. I kind of want to call him Flogger. I don't know why. But he's got, I think it's random how many times he jumps around before he makes himself vulnerable. So that was 4 jumps there on the second phase for Eagle. Alright, boss down onto the Core X for Eagle. Nice double missile there. One of the other ways to land a double missile is to have both your missiles be fired on the same axis, I guess I'll call it, either horizontally or vertically, and have the Core X kind of run into both of them from the side. Mandatoby not quite getting it, so he's going to be losing a bit of time to Eagle in this respect, but he does manage to get the kill near the middle of the room. He's lost just a little bit more time to Eagle, who jumped out to an early lead and is just slowly, very consistently been building on it here and there. We'll try to get an idea of just how far ahead he is. Ooh, Mandatoby trying to get in the SAX's face. Oh, frozen! Oh, 1 health left. Mandatoby barely getting out of there. Eagle played it safe, and Mandatoby, perhaps knowing he's behind, went to get a little ballsy there. Almost paid the price for it. Still at 1 health. This is still scary. Any little enemy can just, and he's donezo. We'll see how carefully he plays it on his way to the next potential safe spot. There's an enemy on the other side of this wall, I think. I can't remember if the cocoon is active or not at this point in the game. Skipping the recharge room. Easy. He has no problems. Eagle is on this cutscene where Samus ruminates about the SAX. She's sort of seen it. I mean, the player has definitely seen it. But, like, technically she's on another floor, and it's unclear whether or not she actually sees the SAX if you don't. But apparently she has, because she knows all about it. Plus, I guess Adam filled her in. Either way, we're moving on to the next section of the game. Oh, just kidding. Need to talk to Adam first. Scan, here's a map. Thanks. Mandatoby still at 1 health. Is he gonna visit this this recharge room on the way into Sector 4? Chat pointing out there's electric water in Sector 4 that needs to kind of be entered in for just a little bit, so he's gonna need more than 1 health. Whether he chooses to rely on getting that health from enemies or not, versus eating the time loss to visit the recharge room. That would be another bold move from Toby if you were to try to get those health drops from enemies. Here's the recharge room, runs right past it. Health drop? Nope. The way some of these enemy spawns work is that once you kill one enemy, the X parasite gets kind of designated to go spawn another enemy. Up to 31 energy now is Mandatoby. He is it's paying off. He's still in a dangerous spot. 31 is enough to take like a hit, I think, but not much more. That health, he doesn't. Okay, wow. Maybe he knows that the health is going to come to him. Either way, he's up to 51 now, and there's the E-Tank, so he is now back at full health. Mandatoby's bold play paying off and giving him a bit more time to catch up to Eagle. If you're wondering how Mandatoby didn't get hit through some of those sections, in addition to just being a baller, when Samus is holding a charge with the charge beam and goes into the spin animation, she, for 1 hit, she will damage whatever she collides with while spinning, sort of like a pseudo screw attack. It has a name, I can't remember what it is. I would laugh if it was a pseudo screw. Eagle is approaching the Ceres X boss fight. Not sure it's even possible to really dodge this door when it does the beam. So he eats 3 to the face before finally getting an open. And with the charge beam does an extra slash of damage right in front of Samus. So able to use that damage both on the door and on the boss just there. I don't know what the patterns are like for this boss, but clearly Eagle knows where the boss is going to be when he's vulnerable. A well-executed boss fight from him. Didn't quite see if he got the double there. He might have. I think he might have. A great boss fight from Eagle. We'll see if Mandatoby can do the same. Waiting up at the top. There's the first hit. The second one, I'm not clear if you're adjusting to what Ceres is doing or not. Yeah, it looks like Mandatoby didn't know where he was going to be that second time. So played it a little safe. We'll see if he can find a double hit on the core. And no, so now I'm starting to doubt if Eagle got a double hit on the core. So a solid boss fight from him, not quite the fantastic boss fight from Eagle. dropping back just a little further. They now have this glorious speed booster. You're not supposed to actually be able to do the Shine Spark in that low height hallway there that Mandatoby just did. But it's kind of crude, but if you just mash A, eventually the Shine Spark just kind of comes out in the low height hallway. The speed booster and Shine Spark combination make speedrunning and also hunting for some of the secrets in this game extremely fun. There's a lot of Shine Spark sequences that are required in order to 100% the game, and they've built in a ton of nifty shortcuts like the one Eagle just took there. The devs were aware of how fun it is to do things with the speed booster and Shine Spark, so they have added a lot of elements in the layout. Ooh, Eagle not quite having enough space there to build up the charge. Gonna have to back up and run that back, so to speak. Ooh, Mandatoby couldn't quite... He wanted to... Oh, you know what? He probably wanted to just end the charge and then build another one. I thought he was going to Shine Spark forward, but that would carry you all the way across, and that might actually end up being slower, I'm not sure. Eagle heading out of the navigation room as Mandatoby is heading in. This one is a pretty lengthy set of text boxes. So let's see, 2728 to reach the top of the elevator for Eagle. And a 2756. So a 28-second difference now between the players. Not insurmountable. But it's looking more and more like Eagle's going to have to trip up a little bit, because he has been playing very solidly. Some nice speed booster tricks going on. Hunting down some of the first few missile expansions of this sector. And yeah, Polesmore pointing out Eagle is indeed the first seed. Mandatoby, no slouch, but he's up against literally the best of the best here. Ooh. Oh yeah, okay, there is just one speed boost block there. I wasn't sure if Mandatoby had to build up another charge. Eagle coming upon the 1% missile tank. For a long time, there was no way to skip that missile tank, so there was no low... The low percent run of this game was not a 0%, it was a 1%. But then I think a way was found to skip that tank. Can't remember if it involved like some pseudo out of bounds shenanigans. We're moving on to a lovely boss fight soon. Not quite as lovely as the purple balloon eye. But it's still a problem for speedrunners. It's this jumping defense robot thing. Landing the missile shots on this guy are really fiddly. Eagle's doing a pretty good job here. The diagonal shots especially are really tough. I'm gonna call that a good boss fight. I honestly couldn't tell you if he could have done it a cycle faster. Right, the box. We'll see how Mandatoby does. His spacing on the diagonal shots is good. Yeah, that was a faster boss fight than Eagle by maybe 2 cycles, at least 1. Mandatoby showing us how it's done. Mostly due to not getting hit, I think. There was a spot where Eagle took a hit. Once more, Mandatoby entering the text room as Eagle is on his way out. We'll see how the lead has changed here. 32-26 getting on the elevator. (26 + 28), doing math on stream. We should see a 54 if Mandatoby is on the same pace that he was coming into this section. 53, 54. Okay, we'll say he gained half a second. I'm pretty sure that boss fight was faster though, so I think he lost some time elsewhere and made it up on the boss fight. We're heading into the Arctic section of the game. For now, because Metroids are weak to ice, the X-Parasites have adapted to be real cold. And it hurts. Ooh. Cold to the touch. So you need to avoid these giant blue ice X-Parasites. And they annoyingly pop out of parts of the terrain that you need to break to progress. There's one there at the top of the screen. Eagle just running right on by. You can shoot them to stun them, but the better solution is just to run away. Eventually we'll be able to absorb them for a juicy 40 health, I think it is. Maybe missiles. But for now they must be avoided. Shine Spark chain going there for Eagle. By Shine Sparking into a slope, Samus continues running, which enables her to duck and charge another Shine Spark. So as long as you can find slopes before your Shine Spark runs out, or before you have to execute a Shine Spark, basically, you can continually chain them. And there's speedrun mechanics here. Eagle revealing that these are in fact power bomb blocks, and uh-oh, SAX just put a power bomb down. Just nipping annoyingly at her ankles to get her attention and then running under her. In a casual play, these SAX confrontations are legit terrifying, but speedrunners have a pretty good handle on it. Except with a time where Mandatoby just charged right at her. That was oh, he got frozen. The diagonal frozen shot. Look out. Okay, he's alive. He's going to be able to get away here. I don't think the low health is going to be much of a problem. I don't know if his positioning was off or if it was just random or what, but the diagonal frozen shot from the SAX through the ground, I might add. She has the wave beam power up. I forget the name of this boss Eek is fighting, Super Core X or something. He's taking very calculated movements to try to manipulate the weird oscillation movement of this boss, and he has a pretty solid boss fight, making sure he uses his charge beams right up in its face to get that melee slash core thing, the Mega Core X. Thanks, chat. You always got my back. We'll see if Mandatoby can do the same. He's landed his 2 hits. 3, 4. And then we'll see if he can land some doubles here, going far off to the right to swing it over to the left to try to get it to come in on the side of these 2 missiles. And now wants to kill it in the middle. Very nicely done from Mandatoby. With the, I guess this is the Variasuit power-up. Samus is not as vulnerable to temperatures and is now able to happily absorb these refreshing blue Kool-Aid X-parasites. It's just like a spring mist every time. Chat doing my job for me. 36-second difference after the boss fights. Overall, Mandatoby losing about 8 seconds or so in this sequence of gameplay. I don't think much of it was the boss fight. I think it was cleaner movement through the sector. Because his boss fight looked pretty solid. Then again, Eagles did too. So the story of this race, staying the same. Eagle with a slight, but not totally insurmountable lead. My apologies, significant, but not insurmountable lead over Mandatoby. Still, as both runners are now heading out of Sector 6. In Pom Pom Pocket, I agree. This is a fun speed game. There are some RNG elements, but I mean, what game doesn't? And there are some text boxes that slow down the pace of the game a little bit. But the gameplay, especially once you get the speed booster, is a lot of fun. Eagle tearing off all the way across the spaceship to reach Sector 5. What's Adam got for us today? A huge booger with a bloody scab on top. Nicely put. So I was hoping to catch a gleam of what is going on story-wise at this point in the game, but I kind of missed it. So. Story is Samus go boom shoot bad guy. Eagle backing up just a little bit to get room for a speed charge. Yeah, that's the general flow of the story. X-Parasites here, go kill them. But usually it's like, the X-Parasites have adapted to do this, so now you need to do that. And I can't remember what the this quirk is for this section. I mean, it looks like they're still just cold. We already solved that problem. Stupid X. Mandatoby building up his speed charge at the last second to get through the floor. Eagle has unlocked the level 3 hatches, so the yellow doors can now be opened. Using the pseudo screw, as I'm going to call it, to progress smoothly through that vertical section. Anytime you have a vertical section, especially before you have the space jump, it's usually a highly technical section. Eagle has made it to the ice missile download. Powers up your missiles to be ice elemental. A wizard cast ice magic on them. And now you can turn people into snowmen. Not quite. But might as well be able to freeze enemies and jump off of them. I think it gives some kind of story reason for why you can't use an ice beam because of your Metroid-ness. So they add it into your missiles. Eagle luring the X to spawn that statue so that he can build up a Shine Spark here. Both players moving well through this section of the game. The spooky nightmare shadow swooping through the background there for Eagle. We'll see him later. A terrifying boss for a casual player. And not free by any means for a speedrunner. I think there's an emergency in Sector 3, you guys. Someone should really do something about it.
Whoa, emergency. What's
yeah,
going on
look out. Scary things are happening. Thank you for joining me, Jagger G. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm a bit tired. I just woke up, like, right when this started.
Well, thank you very much for shaking off the sleepies, the bedhead, and joining us for some commentary.
My head is still pretty beddy, but alright.
No one will know.
If I can get things set up.
So just looking at the timers now, we can see Eagle is 30 in-game seconds ahead of Mandatoby. I'm not sure how that translates into real people seconds. Depends on the amount of screen transitions, as well as the sort of the frame rate the game is running at.
It's pretty close. The timer in the game actually, for some reason, runs at 64 frames per second.
Neat.
I guess because it's
Power
up.
2. Yeah. I know a couple games that just sort of shortcut it like that.
Or maybe they're just silly. I don't know. In addition to the door transitions and text not counting for time, can be a lot of deviation between real time and in-game time. That's why these matches are typically like an hour or 50, maybe like 2 hours. And the in-game time is generally like 10 something.
Guess we'll see. The players now a little less than halfway through their runs, mostly because there's so many missile and other expansions to be picked up in the 100% category.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are saved for the very end, just because it's faster to get them when you have space jump and or screw attack and or speed booster.
Yeah, you end up with a sort of cleanup route at the end of the game. And the developers kind of intended that too, right? Because they put in those shortcuts to get between all the sectors after the elevators are down, so that you can kind of do a sweep of the whole game with all your newfound power-ups and get all the secrets.
I love this shaft that Eagle just got through. It's probably one of my favorite rooms in the game, at least. It just feels so good when you get up there cleanly.
We'll see shortly if Mandatoby can do the same.
The typical strat is like freezing things and jumping on them on the way up, and it's pretty close to the same speed as it would be if you shine sparked, but without all the detouring to actually charge it. Little known fact: with the high jump equipped, the initial speed of your jump, the vertical velocity, is as fast as a shine spark. So a lot of times, space jumping or just jumping is faster than sparking.
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's why you're here, to say useful, insightful things.
Although the nice thing about Fusion is a lot of it is pretty easy to tell. Like, oh, he saved time by like shooting this enemy in a certain way, or like shooting 4 enemies at the same time with one shot. But there are little tricks to make going fast kind of more reliable. Eagle's coming up on the animal segment. I think most runners opt to do a little jump extend in the stretcher room beforehand, just to get to the ledge early. And you see Eagle pulling that off here. There's another strat. It's a little bit faster, that involves wall jumping off the wall and just stalling for the stretchies to spawn, and then you get to freeze them underneath you, so you could immediately jump up.
We'll see which strat Mandatoby opts for in about 25 seconds or so. He's 35 seconds back now.
Yeah, that gap can close pretty easily in cleanup, so there are a lot of places you could lose a couple minutes just from struggling or tilting trying to get a tank.
Yeah, there are definitely some where you have to do a complicated sequence of events, and if you blow it, you got to go all the way back to the start and redo it. Another long elevator ride for Eagle. think this is the part of the game where you kind of go off the grid in the main section.
It's about to be. You gotta take a quick detour to Sector 5 first.
Okay. That was where I got stuck for a long time when I first played this as a wee lad.
And the enemies, like, in between, like, getting to the ship, they deal a lot of damage. The spit from the roaches, like, in the ceiling, can deal 80 damage.
That is pretty sizable. In the 100% category, we've detoured for a number of E-tanks, so they're not quite as scary as they would be in other categories.
And in a casual playthrough, you don't know where all the energy tanks are, so I don't know, you probably have like 4 by this point, maybe 3. Probably 3.
Our runners have got 6, but 80 damage will eat through 600 pretty quick. I don't know if you've been watching the whole race, but Mandatoby got pretty bold with the first SAX encounter. Got right up in her face, got frozen twice, went down to 1 health.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very risky. That is the pretty much the only place players usually die in 100% run, because that skip saves about 5 seconds. Of course, safety saving beforehand actually costs about 5 seconds, so I don't know how worth it is. It varies from player to player, but it's usually pretty reliable. It's just if your movement is slightly off, you can get a pattern with the SAX where it turns immediately and shoots, like, as you're running past it. And it's very difficult to deal with. You could jump over it, but it's a really tight window.
Yeah, we saw Mandatoby try to jump over a shot right near the door and didn't quite get over it. I thought it was curtains for him, but hanging on with 1 health.
Yeah, if you're close enough to the door, then like, you'll have just barely enough time to jump over the super missile incoming.
Here's Eagle's encounter with the SAX. He's out cleanly.
If you're a little slow through that room, the shot can actually it can get to the door before you do. But if you're going fast enough, you don't have to worry about it at all.
Well, going fast is it's the game plan for today. Mandatoby struggling a little bit, freezing the... Oh, what are they called?
The Rippers.
Rippers.
The lion turtles. Yeah, that was he was going for the optimal strat of a wall jumping to the ledge that it's a kind of tight window, but unfortunately he didn't get it.
It's a pretty small thing, but it's little small things like that all over the place that Eagle has earned him his lead he has here of 35,
Exactly.
maybe 40 seconds now.
It's really speedrunning in a nutshell.
Shoot. Not quite getting through the wall there.
That's a pretty tough one. I know you've commentated a lot of matches of the Speed Gaming League that happened a few years ago, and you were seeing like a lot of times where just movement alone was making a huge difference. Like,
Yeah,
saving frames.
It can be hard to pinpoint, where it was that all these seconds came from, and it turns out it's just frames here and there all over the place, little jumps.
I once tried to figure out how I could improve by watching my run versus a world record run side by side, and I was noticing that they were saving like 3 seconds just on a vertical section, just because it's so easy to lose time when you gotta time your jumps every time you land.
Yep. Every frame you spend standing on the ground and not jumping up to the next platform is a frame lost, and those frames can add up really quickly in a vertical section.
In addition, like jumping too high will cost double the time because you're wasting frames rising up past the platform and then coming back down to it.
Absolutely.
But if you jump too short, it costs a lot more.
It certainly does. For a tournament race, you might not see such close frame shaving. Players might be willing to take platforms a little more with a little more berth to make sure that doesn't happen. But Eagle has been his platforming, especially in the vertical section, has been looking really solid.
Yeah. And climbing areas is a pretty general speedrunning technique that can really help in like a variety of games. Just playing other games can help you a lot in your main speed game.
The lovely animals have made their way to Samus's spaceship, and they're just saying, I didn't know the Etikin will pop out from the corner there. That was cute.
Yeah, adorbs.
And now we're into the section of game I thought we were earlier.
Yeah. All the power's shut off because he's being pretty much choked by all this vegetation. So make sure, kids, to always eat your vegetables.
They're very tough to skip E-Tank if you're in a category where you need to do so. It's the opposite here in the 100% tournament, but
definitely the hardest boss in low percent.
The Spider Mafia. That's right. I was wondering. I knew this boss had a weird name, but I couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah, Yakuza. And the first boss, which is an armadillo, is called Arachnus. And the six-legged arachnid, I guess, is something different.
So casually, I thought this was an extremely tough boss fight.
It is. It's definitely. I'd say this is the toughest. With
struggling a little bit here, actually.
It's really difficult to aim the shots when it's constantly moving at high speeds.
Ooh,
there are a lot of strats in any percent and low percent where you can nice doubles as well. Where it's like just learning bosses' patterns and such make it a lot easier. But Yakuza is always really difficult.
Yeah, you need to be able to react to where he's going, and he does move so quick. And not only that, but he moves like. It's almost hard to keep track of just where he is on the screen due to the way he spins around so violently. But yeah, the way those legs move as he shimmy shammies back and forth, if you've got a spider phobia, I could see this being really triggering.
Yeah.
Mandatoby struggling as well to land these shots in between the front arms, legs, claws, mandibles. Does finally get him in there.
I used to have a spider phobia, but like I played a lot of Zelda, and there are a lot of spiders in that, so I just kind of had to like, what's the phrase?
You confronted your fears, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Like
There are some
exposure
pretty
therapy.
Yeah, there you go, exposure. There are some pretty spooky spiders in Zelda. Skulltulas.
They're all over the place. And the hands really creeped me out as a kid.
I don't think anyone is ever not creeped out by the hands and the what is it called with the face that's like upside down and it comes. You fight it in the well in the Shadow Temple. That thing is horrifying. Anyway,
Dead hand.
Dead hand. There you go. Eagle's got another boss story here.
It's a neat strat, like going up to that room. If you look closely, he was actually jumping through the door, but he was able to shoot straight up in the next room and continue rising. It's a really minor technique that most players don't know about. Like when you're skidding, like when you're speed boosting, you could let go of the control pad and you'll kind of slide along the ground. And you could do a jump straight up, but it won't actually go straight up because you're like skidding along the ground. You'll kind of curve upward, and that allows you to shoot the vegetation out as you're rising through it. It's really minor time save.
Yeah, it's a lot of work for a little bit of time, so it's impressive that you went for it.
There are a few minor details about skidding. It's pretty interesting. Like you could charge a Shine Spark like within like I want to say half a second or something of letting go of the control pad. And that helps with certain Shine Spark tricks. Because you could there's like a data room where you could where you have to stand on the pad to activate it, but you have to wait for the animation to go through. So you could skid along the ground to just extend how long the platform animation is going before you shine the charge, giving you a lot of extra room, a lot of leeway.
Polesmore is excitedly calling out for the Nightmare Space Boost. And I think I know what that is, but
no one really goes for it except Polesmore, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's it saves 5 seconds. It's pretty big, but it's ridiculously difficult to do. There are a lot of door transitions, and more notably, they're like broken doors. So for some reason, a property about broken doors is that when you pass through them, it warps you to the ground level. So if you're falling at any point, you're going to land on the next frame. So you have to be jumping through every door transition. And to be able to time that with a speed boost, it takes some pretty masterful timing, for sure.
Then it definitely is the thing I'm thinking of, and it would look super impressive if Eagle were to pull it off. I guess we'll see. Questions in chat about the English version. Certainly these text boxes would be a little more palatable if it was in Japanese. But the runners need to agree to play on the same version, and Mandatoby only has the English version, I believe is the case. So these runners will be competing for today on the English version.
The text alone saves about 3 minutes.
So there's Eagle doing a Shine Spark, which I believe is you in here. Instead of doing that spark, you would do a series of space jumps while you have the speed.
You might have noticed, like, he was slightly off the ground when he started the spark, and then, like, at some point he was just like, right along, even with the ground.
Oh, I see, yeah. And I see now why you wouldn't go for it, because if you go for it and you screw it up, you don't get to get the shine spark that will guaranteed get you a good deal of the way.
Yeah, I can save 5 seconds or lose like 10.
Yeah. Well, Mandatoby showed us some brave stuff before. Maybe he's if he's aware of where he is with regards to Eagle. We do a lot of randomizers on this channel, and in those games, you're not allowed to check in on your opponent to see where they are or anything because of the information you can gain from it, kind of destroying the random discovery element. But in normal tournament matches like this one, you are allowed to keep tabs on your opponent, and depending on how well he's doing and how well you're doing, that can influence some of your decisions. So Mandatoby might be like, oh man, I really need time here. I might go for the space boost.
He's going for the Shine Spark.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I can't blame him for that for sure, because almost nobody has actually pulled off the space boost at all. It's that difficult. More people have done 0% runs than have pulled off the space boost.
Wow. That really is a trick on another level. So Eagle is almost done with the Nightmare fight. Did a whole bunch of damage to him, and is now dealing with these movements.
Yeah, casually this tends to be a tough boss for new players, but one of the trends you kind of notice in speedruns is that, like, if you go fast, it tends to make the fight a lot easier.
Yeah.
And you just face tank the damage, and like you only get hit like once or twice, and the boss dies.
Yeah, if you spend all your time, space jumping around the screen trying not to get hit, you probably are going to get hit, and the whole time you're not dealing damage to the boss. So the fight is going to drag on longer. Eagle showing us how it's done. Shoot him in the face with missiles.
I've talked to some people who are afraid to do speedrun strats because they're not speedrunners. Speedrunning is inherently hard, and it's somewhat true, but a lot of speedrun tactics are to make things more consistent or easier.
Yeah. Ooh, Nightmare completely disappearing from Mandatoby on the commentary.
30 frame rate flicker thing.
Thought something real bad had happened for a second before I realized what had happened.
No, that happens a lot in this game. Like with the core X's forming and stuff, you'll notice either they're completely solid or they're completely invisible. Although when you actually play the game yourself, you'll notice they're like they appear to be transparent. It's just the way Nintendo tends to do transparency is just by flickering sprites every other frame.
It's a lot easier than drawing a new sprite that is partially see-through. They just flash it every other frame. So Mandatoby had a better Nightmare fight there. Managed to get him to settle down and stop moving a lot quicker. Is that random, or can you kind of influence it by how you move?
If you go really fast, you could usually squeeze under the fish. But yeah, it is a random movement. It can go up or down and just block your way. When I was starting out, for sure, that was a scary part for low percent, because you never knew if you were just gonna immediately die when you jump up the screen.
Yeah. So Eagle has unlocked the level 4 doors, I think, which means it's now impossible to go get the secret message. Unfortunately, not part of
it's the diffusion missiles.
That's the trigger. Right, you need to unlock the door, then go. Okay. So he could still turn around and go do it.
Unfortunately, doing the secret message route is about 5 seconds slower. Like, even if you don't get the secret message, if you just try to get the diffusion missiles by doing the secret message route. Unfortunately, it winds up slower. It would be really cool if that was like a faster speed route.
It's a really tricky set of shine sparks and jumps. Carrying a shine spark charge through a whole vertical section and a bunch of stuff beforehand.
And those are really tight,
yeah. It took me weeks, I want to say, trying to make it happen on my tiny little regular Game Boy Advance D-pad. As a kid, I was obsessed with making it happen for quite a long time. And one day I eventually did.
It can be really trolly.
And then
like, if you press down too soon, you just bonk on the slope.
Yep.
But if you only have like a few frames, like 3 or probably 4 frames to charge the spark, like once you actually touch the slope.
There was one time where I actually got all the way up there with it and shine sparked diagonally and only went through one layer of the blocks.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh! And then I played this game again somewhat recently on a computer emulator with a nice SNES pad to USB. So with the bigger screen and the nice controller, I did it in like an hour or something. Like it. I was pretty
There's something to be said with muscle memory as well.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I had all those hours built up
a
somewhere.
week of practice, pretty much.
Yeah.
And like you kind of knew the patterns, you knew like when to press down. And that's another instance where I feel like going the fast way to get the secret message is probably easier because fewer things are in your way. Whereas if you kind of wait around and you store your spark like multiple times per slope, the fish are gonna start moving around and getting in less than desirable positions.
Mandatoby shine sparking through the, I don't know what it is, gross flesh wall thing.
Pretty much. We call it a barrier. I don't know its actual name.
That's a functional name. We'll take it. So we'll get an idea of Eagle's lead here. 113.12, reaching the top of the elevator. I feel like it's widened just a little bit more.
Always tends to be the way with the players of slightly different skill levels.
The lead maybe has grown so big that my memory will forget that it was 113.12 by the time Mandatoby gets there. We'll see. It's a test of my attention span and short-term memory.
Don't forget 114.16. I mean
12.
Wait. Oh,
13.12. Both were wrong. We're already. You can see we're already a minute back here. Chat talking about the AM2R, another Metroid 2 remake. It is a remake of Metroid 2 in the style of like a Metroid Fusion or a Metroid Zero Mission. The GBA games have a very similar sort of control to them for 2D Metroid. A lot less floaty and
a lot of its own flavor in the design as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really impressed with the boss design of it.
Yeah, it is really well done. It attracted some speedrunners right away. I don't know if it still has like an active scene, but I'd be interested in seeing if anything has changed there. Yeah, it's still around. You can still find it through shadowy means and back channels that we won't talk about.
Yeah, but like the major streamers, like especially big Metroid streamers, tend to not want to stream it because of that. Just the potential that Nintendo could come in and just shut down their time.
Yeah, I guess Nintendo's weird about that stuff. Well, let's see what Nintendo can come up with their own version of a Metroid 2 remake.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. But it won't be like 10 years of development and good, you know?
Eagle is charging up diffusion missiles here. Defeating Corex and grabbing the wave beam. It's got a really funky sprite in this game.
I'm sure a lot of players wonder when they get diffusion missiles, like, does charging do more damage? And it doesn't. It just, getting the diffusion missile upgrade, it just upgrades the damage right off the bat to 45 per shot. And charging it doesn't increase that.
No entry without authorization. Warning. No entry without authorization.
So Eagle has finally obtained authorization. He is able to enter. And he discovers a secret laboratory where they've been working on Metroids. What? I thought all the Metroids were gone. These scientists cannot be trusted.
60 seconds. Isolation lockdown.
And we see their big plot point, the SAX trying to take down all the Metroids.
Yeah, the X is using its newfound Samus powers to fight its arch enemy, the Metroids. And so that whole section of the ship has just been detached and exploded now. As Mandatoby deals with his refight with the box, missing some of those downward shots as well as the diagonal shots.
Oof. Just a little bit off on some of those.
Does eventually get him down.
The diagonals are especially tough because you have to kind of aim above it rather than at the core, because if you aim at the center of it, then you're going to get blocked by the front legs.
So he's got the wave beam. We totally forgot to check in on Mandatoby hitting the top of the elevator, so it's still unclear. We know it's more than a minute. I'm gonna call it a minute and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, so technically you don't need the diffusion missiles at all throughout the game, but they do wind up getting some use throughout speedruns.
Do they count as a percent?
No. None of the upgrades in the game count as a percent. It's just the expansions, like the energy tanks, the missile tanks, and the power bomb tanks.
Got it.
So there are 20 energy tanks, 48 missile tanks, and 32 power bomb tanks. Mandatoby making the important lag the game strat on the SAX laboratory segment.
It was a minute 55 actually. Mandatoby dropping quite a bit further back in the sort of back half of this run. Eagle has made it to the Ridley fight. We get some classic boss music.
Yeah, so the plasma beam, well, and the wave beam as well. Well, I guess the plasma beam mainly, it pierces through enemies, so you'll notice, like, there's a bit of lag and Ridley's just, like, flashing the whole time going through his body, and it's doing damage every single frame, so Like where a missile would do 45 damage to it, beam tends to do upwards of 300 per shot.
Very
You
significant.
really want to be using charge beam.
Eagle, I think he missed 1 or 2 double hits there against the Core X, but solid Ridley fight overall.
The more you upgrade it, it gets a lot more difficult because, for one, the cooldown on shots actually increases per upgrade, only by like a frame or 2. But also the speed of the missiles goes up per upgrade as well. So they'll pull further away the more you upgrade.
Yeah, that makes it
And
harder
Ridley
to
is the hardest
group
one
them together. So we're pretty much all powered up here. Screw attack gonna cap things off, but we're missing lots and lots of items.
Interesting opting to do diagonal shots on those pirates. It probably makes it a lot easier. I hadn't considered that. It usually takes like either 1 or 2 shots to kill the golden pirates just because of the property where you gotta turn around to make them vulnerable.
Mandatoby's into the Ridley fight, doing these nice diagonal charge shots.
Yeah. Especially if Ridley's like flying alongside the shots, it does a ton.
See if he can pull off some of these tricky double shots. I think that was one.
Yeah.
Nice job there, Mandatoby.
Yeah, that was 2 doubles.
He's gonna have a hard time making a real comeback of it at this point, but things like that will go a long way towards making that dream happen.
Almost gets pacifist through the Ripper room. Like, the best way to do that room is to not kill any of the Rippers. Like, it's not any faster, but it's the best. Like, from a moral standpoint.
Got it. So not to take too much away from our runners, but on Speed Gaming 2, and Majora's Mask match started. I guess I'm a little late introducing it by 20 minutes or so. Yeah, Majora's Mask happening on Speed Gaming 2. And after this, we got Metroid continues, not of the fusion variety, but of the Super Metroid randomizer variety. That's what's going to be coming up next, but it's still a little ways away here, as we still got some cleanup to do. Both Eagle and
randomizers.
Yeah, the randomizers are good stuff. You know what? I also like watching just a good old-fashioned speedrun of a game that stays the same, like Metroid Fusion.
Mandatoby opted to spark through that pirate room earlier. It's actually, in theory, it's faster to jump upward. Ideally, you grab onto the ladders because you won't fall, and you could immediately jump off of them. Because with a space jump, you have to fall a little bit before you're able to space jump again, for whatever reason. But with ladders, you could just grab on and jump off immediately. And you don't have to, like, wait to come out of your stun when you hit the ceiling with the Shine Spark.
So Eagle, I'm not sure if he's done with Sector 1 or if he's going to end up back there at the end, but he is moving on to Sector 3 now. Taking the first
big perk of the counterclockwise route, as we call it, just going left instead of right. The old runs like before 2013. They were going right first. They were going through sector 2, 4, 6, 5, 3, and then back to 1. And they would talk to Adam in the beginning of sector 1, and then afterwards they would have to take an elevator up to the next elevator that's like twice as long. But with this new route, they just go left and they end up in sector 2, which just so happens to have the exit that you came in through after Yakuza. And you just skip those 2 elevators entirely, and it winds
that's
up
cool.
quite a bit faster.
So indeed, going left is the play. We're into sector 3 now on Eagle's side of the screen.
Yeah, I used to not like this sector because the old route also did kind of a loop-de-loop around the sector, and I thought it felt a little, I don't know, I didn't like it. Just like repeating movements a lot. But now you're gonna see, after Eagle hits the top here, he's gonna fall, you have to fall down to get this tank. But he's gonna fall all the way back down to the bottom, and then just he's gonna set up for some really nifty space boost and shine sparks instead of just looping, just like NASCAR, just going in circles.
I'm excited. And I am not excited about NASCAR ever, so clear win here for Shine Sparks. Here he goes.
Not to knock NASCAR a bit.
I'll knock
Just
NASCAR.
personal preference.
I'm okay with going on record as knocking NASCAR. Just a little though.
Yeah, that's a pretty clean space boost by Eagle there. Getting all the way through to this room.
Powerbomb acquired. You get so many power bombs in this game, and it's weird because I feel like the only thing you really want that many power bombs for is to use them in all the rooms to find the secrets to get more power bombs.
Like in my first playthrough, I was actually low on power bombs because of that exact reason. I had to backtrack to recharge rooms because unfortunately none of the X refills except for the red one, which is super rare. None of the other ones actually refill power bombs.
What do Canadians have instead of NASCAR? We have other more interesting things, like painting
Log
the
riding.
garage, or
What's that called?
what?
Like when you ride a log down a river?
Log riding, actually, is what.
Yeah, I thought so.
Or log driving, actually, is the.
Ah.
There's an old
More
cartoon.
exciting than NASCAR.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that actually it would be pretty exciting if depending on the river.
Yeah.
Nothing but you and a log and like a set of rapids. Look up the old I think it's just called the Log Driver. The Log Driver's Waltz. There you go. Jiggly Saint knows. That's a classic bit of Canadiana. So let's get back to some Metroid. Mandatoby is he's kind of out of it. There's
he gets
some
those
boss
pieces
fights
as
left,
well.
but not like 2-3 minutes worth of time to lose here, right?
Yeah. The Sector 6, which is really volatile, and Sector 2, which is not quite as volatile, but still pretty tough. And Eagle's entering Sector 6 now. There are a lot of shine sparking and space boosting to do. So, I don't know if you talked about space boosting earlier, but it's a pretty tricky trick. essentially you just get a speed boost and you start space jumping. Oh, okay, he opts for the Shine Spark instead. But an important thing about space boosting between rooms is that you can actually open doors by charging your beam and tapping R to select missiles, and that'll release the charge beam before toggling. So you can open doors that way without breaking out of your spin.
Oh, is that what happened? Because I saw him do that. I saw him just kind of go through a door, and I just kind of cocked my head a little bit, like, huh.
Yeah.
Makes sense. That must feel really good to pull off.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it doesn't work in Zero Mission. I don't know why. They made it so you could charge your beam while shine sparking, but they took out shooting the beam without breaking spin.
At least both games have the respin mechanic.
Yeah.
That can be really frustrating for Super Metroid.
Super Metroid and Returning Samus as well.
Mandatoby charging up Shine Spark. He's going for another boost here. Nice job.
Oh, and very cleanly boosts through those blocks. Usually if you space boost through there, you tend to get like 1 or 2 blocks kind of you wind up with an uneven platform there.
So you can't just run through it on the way back.
Exactly, yeah. You have to do a few more jumps, and it costs quite a bit of time as opposed to just running. Eagle cleanly getting that power bomb tank. It's actually really difficult to get that way. I guess the intended way is to wait for one of those spike dudes to crawl all the way there and then freeze it to use it as a platform. But like, I didn't even know about that way. I always thought you had to do like some really difficult space jump. Oh, and Eagle raising one of those pillars. You usually never see those in speedruns, but you'll almost certainly see them in casual play. And just blocking your way from getting a speed boost in this room.
Mandatoby navigating some of the trickier expansions in the game, in this room that kind of teaches you different Shine Spark and Shine Boost mechanics.
Yeah, that almost kind of feels like a beta room or something, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this is how you Shine Spark. This is how you test space boosting.
And then they just
like,
locked it
how can we
away.
require a space boost?
Yeah, well, you have like a line, and then you jump, and then if you land, then and you can't. So yeah, there we go. Got it. Now just section it off and stick it to the side somewhere. Make it a speed.
Exactly.
There is another race, not of Metroid Fusion. It'll be Super Metroid Randomizer. But you can type, I hope it's ! Fusion. Sounds like that's it. To see the schedule specifically for when the next Metroid Fusion match is coming up, which is...
I want to say it's 7 p.m. tonight?
Yep. Mm-hmm. You are absolutely correct.
And I think there's another one at 10, right?
That I don't know. If it is, it's not on the schedule.
Oh, okay. Oh, I think it was 10 last night. Okay.
Speaking of 10, we're, I want to say, about 10 minutes away from these runners finishing up. Eagle now full on E-Tanks. Is there any worry of ending up with 99% here?
Sometimes. You can... Usually, a lot of players play on a completed, a pre-completed file, so that gives them access to some information on the pause screen. It'll tell you both the in-game time and how many tanks. Like, it'll tell you if you've completely gotten every tank in each sector, divided between E-tanks, missile tanks, and power bomb tanks. So a lot of players will pause at the end of each sector and they'll look at their menu and see, like, is there a check mark next to each of them? And if so, then they're free to just leave.
So a lot more likely we'll see the embarrassing 99.
And the weird thing is, at the end of Sector 2, like when they're about to leave to the main deck, they will be at 99% because there's one more power bomb tank right before the navigation room. Eagle doing those ladder jumps considerably faster than space jumping, and he did that really well.
Yeah, Eagle's been looking a little more sharp, which I guess is to be expected. He is the #1 seed coming into this tournament. But both players have been playing consistently, at least. We haven't seen any really big mistakes. It's just been really smooth, solid play from both.
Yeah, they're both very experienced players.
It's not easy to maintain that level of play for an hour 36 here.
Exactly. Especially getting into the run. 100% is considered to be the most difficult speed run because it's so backloaded with all the tricks.
Another fun beta-like room here and teaching you how to reapply your Shine Spark.
Yeah, this one's in the demo if you're... I think only if you've completed the game.
Oh, really?
I forget.
I guess that makes sense.
Like, this and Super Metroid, I believe, have different demos depending on whether or not you've beaten it.
And they show off the little things like the Crystal Flash and the Shine Sparks and things.
There's an infinite bomb jump demo in Super Metroid.
JRP not in the tournament.
Yep. For a long time, Fusion was pretty much JRP's full-time job.
Oh yeah. Is he
Yeah,
like
he was
taking a break
full-time.
from it, or?
Yeah, he's taking a break. What's he been playing lately? Super Metroid, I want to say he's been learning.
Maybe the next time the Metroid Fusion tournament rolls around, we'll have JRP enter.
Maybe we could pull him in for an exhibition match or something someday. That would be cool. I'd really like to have an exhibition match of a 200 missile race, where you just get missile capacity of 200 and that's the end of the category. Because there are a lot of tanks you could get really early. You wind up getting 200 before the halfway point of the game.
Oh, and then you don't even finish the game? It's just...
Yeah.
That's a neat category. Has there been a lot of like routing thought put into the 200 missile category?
Yeah. It's
awesome.
Because it's really interesting, because like all of those tanks you skipped way early on.
Yeah, you get them all. You sweep through and you get them in the cleanup. But now all of a sudden,
there's some even trickier ones that are like you go through heated rooms. You have to dip through lava for one of them. You have to do some tricky, like extra tricky Shine Sparks and wall jumps.
Mandatoby having some trouble here. does get that missile.
Yeah, that's he gets that before getting the top one. It's an interesting decision.
It might have been because no, I don't think it was an accident that he lost his charge on the way to the right. It seemed like he was jumping purposely to lose it, turn around and go to the left. So yeah, I think it was a conscious decision. Yeah, you're right.
I wonder, maybe that's faster than going for and missing the optimal strat. Normally going through that room, you get the top one first because you're able to store a shine charge like on the pit blocks, and if you fall optimally enough, you can actually get low enough to shine spark into the lower tank. But if you fail that, it's just a 10-second cost. But you're also kind of going past the door, so like it takes an extra 10 seconds to store that shine spark, either if you miss it or if you opt to do it first. So maybe he's just making up time on not having to backtrack to the door.
Yeah, kind of hedging his bets a little bit. Eagle is into the SAX fight, doing this ice charge combo to lock it down.
But like, once you get it down, it's definitely the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, this fight is really hard if you don't do that.
Yeah. There's kind of there's a way you could just like constantly shoot it and like jump over it and just go back and forth along the bottom of the room, and that's generally like how people will do it on their first run through, like a low percent run or something, or even in any percent, because that beam does a lot of damage. But that constant refreezing method, it takes a lot of learning, but once you get it down, it's pretty easy and really consistent.
To clear up the important story in this game, there is a plasma beam, and Samus picks it up without the authority of HQ. They didn't want to give it to her because they didn't want to make her super strong, but she found it on her own. So with the SAX down, Eagle is one short boss encounter away from securing his win.
Doesn't quite get the low height shine spark that would allow him to spark all the way through here.
Yeah, I was wondering.
It only saves about a second.
Oh.
Because you actually, you don't have to go all the way to the end of the room. You just have to go like pretty much halfway through what you see here, and then just walk back.
I forgot how much damage the Omega Metroid does to sort of put you in health, critical health, just bam, one shot. Alright, so, wow, the mash, the sound effect of the... that boss is dead.
It's really tricky to mash that down, because like, if you're okay at mashing, you'll wind up not actually firing half the time, because there's a cooldown on the beam. I want to say it's like a 4-frame cooldown or something like that.
So it's more of a rhythm thing?
Exactly, yeah. You'll shoot a lot faster if you just mash... the way I put it is you kind of mash poorly. Mashing poorly is optimal.
You go slow to go fast. Eagle has finished off the Omega Metroid and is picked up the win with a final time, according to RaceBot, of 1:44.22. As Mandatoby is dealing with this last Core X. He fired quite a few more missiles to make sure he had the SAX lockdown, but he did succeed in getting that lockdown on the first form.
And the doubles on the Ice Core X at the end they're pretty tricky. Some runners have visual cues for when to break their spin and when to fire their missiles. And they say it's really easy. Like, I haven't really practiced it myself, but...
Yeah, I saw Eagle and I guess Mandatoby was too, but I specifically noticed it when I was watching Eagle.
Yeah, he took fewer, I guess, rounds, right?
I think so. But he made sure he got way up high. Let's see if we can get the low height Shine Spark from Mandatoby. Oh, not quite. You get way up nice and high so that you fall down a longer distance, and that gets your fall speed up, so that gets your missiles closer together.
Pogo. Oh, for a short time. Essentially, if you get behind the Omega Metroid, like as it's screeching, it'll try to jump back because you're behind it, but it's like all the way back already, so it just continuously pogos in place.
Trying for a bit of swag. Mandatoby with an equally impressive boss fight.
I think Kirby Master holds the record for longest pogo. He managed to keep it going for the entirety of the escape.
Nice.
And, well, died as a result, but that's the longest you could get.
He blew up horribly, but what a way to go out in style. Much like Mandatoby, who has finished with a 1:47.17, and I can't help but want to peek at the bracket to see what the outcome of today's race means. So we're in.
Well, it's a Swiss format,
stages.
so.
Yeah, the Swiss format is you kind of play in rounds, and based off of how you do in previous rounds, you'll be matched up against opponents who have done similar. So as the rounds go on, you'll be matched up against more and more sort of equal skill level players.
Mm-hmm. And you don't play a player 2 times.
So because both Eagle and Mandatoby won their first round matches, they met here in the second round. Eagle came out on top, so Eagle's now 2-0, and Mandatoby is 1-1. So we'll see who they meet up with in the third round at some other time. There it is, 100% confirmed for Eagle. In-game time, 1:06.
It's very nice. The record, I believe, is 1:04.
Yeah, that is a really solid run.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking Eagle might face off against Polesmore, possibly, next round. I think he's 2-0, right?
Yeah, Polesmore also 2-0, as well as Monkey SMB. I don't know what other factors it takes into account to decide the matchups. Maybe it takes seeding into account. I would guess that it does. In which case, I think the number 1-2 combo of Eagle Polesmore
into account as well.
Oh, so that, well, yeah, that would do it too. Polesmore put up a 142.44. A very good time in the second round. So you could see the Clash of the Titans, number 1 and 2 seed, in the third round. That's going to be starting on the 4th of September in about 5-6 days or so. So definitely keep an eye on the schedule, both the Speed Gaming schedule, which I shall loudly type into chat there, and also the Metroid Fusion specific calendar or schedule. Chat talking about the animals, the canon ending of Super Metroid, animals saved to save you in Metroid Fusion.
Very important to save them. I'm pretty sure it influences the RNG of how quickly they come out of the habitation deck.
Executive producer Iwata Satoru. Here's your reward for finishing the game with 100% in less than some amount of hours.
2 hours.
2? Really? That's pretty. That's pretty strict.
It's not too bad. I mean, it's in-game time, so.
Yeah, but these guys are like some of the best in the world, and they get like a 109. Like you'd think, for what the Nintendo expected of your average everyday person, I think 2 hours is pretty aggressive. You need to know your stuff if you want to.
Yeah, you got to
100%.
do like probably at least 3 runs.
Mhm.
But I don't know. It's good replayability. So it's like you'll get it eventually, you know.
Yeah. Also, chat pointing out sort of that that it's these clear times and 100% and the sort of the goal times, the par times, I think, that helped drive Super Metroid to be one of the first, or not any Metroid, the entire Metroid series really, to have such a big speedrun scene early on. And that's partly why we got ourselves a lot of Metroid tournaments going on the channel here today. This was Metroid Fusion. Jagger G, thank you so much for joining me on commentary.
Thanks for having me.
I am Mythical9, and these have been your racers, Eagle and Mandatoby. You can follow those runners and see how they do later on in the tournament. This has been it for Metroid Fusion 100%, but stay tuned, because right away we're going to be jumping into a Super Metroid randomizer match. So we'll see you then.